They made Mommy sign something she couldn't read. The whisper was so small it should have vanished under the hum of the glass-walled HR office. But Vincent Moretti's pen stopped half an inch above the approval line. Lily Harper stood beside his black suit sleeve, her worn blue backpack slipping from one shoulder, one finger pressed to her mother's shaking signature on a folded paper. Preston Vale reached for it with a polished smile. "That document is confidential, Mr. Moretti." Lily held the corner tighter. Then why did he call it Mommy's schedule? 3 hours earlier, the hallway outside Moretti Hospitality's human resources office smelled like lemon cleaner, burnt coffee, and printer heat. Lily sat on the last plastic chair with her coloring book open on her knees, trying to stay inside the lines of a horse she had already colored twice. Her mother, Claire Harper, stood near the frosted glass door in a gray maid's uniform, her sleeves damp from scrubbing the banquet restrooms before sunrise. Around them, office employees came and went with white folders marked review copy, each one thick enough to look important and slow. The cleaning staff held thin yellow envelopes with black letters stamped across the front. "Sign before leaving." Lily noticed because children notice unfair things before adults find polite names for them. A woman from payroll offered coffee to the office staff, but not to the housekeepers. A man from accounting asked a server if he wanted to take his packet home, then turned to Claire and said, "HR needs yours today." Claire squeezed Lily's shoulder once. Not hard, just enough to say stay quiet without words. Behind the glass, Preston Vale moved like a man who never hurried because rooms waited for him. His silver tie was perfectly flat. His smile was soft. When he opened the door, he did not look at Lily first. He looked at Claire's name tag, then at the yellow envelope in her hand. "Mrs. Harper, we can make this very simple," he said. "It's only a schedule update and separation housekeeping form. Standard cleanup before audit." Claire blinked at the words she did not understand. "Am I losing my job?" she asked. Preston gave a small laugh, kind enough to sound harmless. "Not if we finish this properly." Lily stopped coloring. The horse's eye became a dark circle under her pencil. Preston led Claire inside but left the door open just wide enough for Lily to see the corner of the desk. A blue folder, a green glass paperweight, and a stack of forms turned face down. Claire sat in the small chair that made grown women look like students in trouble. Preston placed one paper in front of her, then laid the blue folder over the bottom half, leaving only a blank line exposed. "Sign here," he said. Claire hesitated. "Could I take it home? My neighbor helps me read the longer things." The smile stayed on Preston's mouth, but something changed near his eyes. His pen tapped the desk 3 times. "Claire, tomorrow's schedule is being finalized in 20 minutes. If your form is incomplete, I cannot guarantee placement." Lily did not know what guarantee placement meant. She knew what her mother's face meant. Claire's lips pressed together like she had swallowed a stone. She took the pen. Her hand trembled so much the first letter of her name slid below the line. Preston turned the page before the ink had dried. For 1 second, the blue folder shifted. Lily saw words near the bottom that did not look like a schedule at all. Wage, injury, medical, legal claims. Then Preston peeled a white label from a strip and covered the top of the page. Schedule update form. He slid the paper into the yellow envelope, but a second copy slipped crookedly beneath the coloring book Claire had brought from the waiting chair. Lily saw the edge, folded it once, and tucked it into her book without knowing why except that her stomach had gone cold. Now, in front of Vincent Moretti, that same folded paper lay open under the white office lights, and the label at the top was lifting at one corner, revealing the real title beneath: Voluntary Separation and Release Agreement. The words beneath the peeling label did not shout. They did not need to. Vincent Moretti stared at them in silence, the silver signet ring on his right hand catching the office light as his fingers flattened the page. Across the glass wall behind him, the cleaning staff stood in a thin line under the time clock, each person holding a yellow envelope the way people hold bad news when they are too tired to argue with it. Preston Vale's hand remained extended for 1 second too long, then slowly lowered to his side. His smile did not disappear, but it became smaller, more careful. "Mr. Moretti, he said, voice smooth enough to pass for patience. This is exactly why HR documents should not be handled in hallways by children. Lily's hand tightened around the edge of her coloring book. She was close enough to Vincent's sleeve to smell wool, cold air, and the faint metal scent of his old lighter in the inner pocket of his jacket. But she did not hide behind him. She looked at Preston and said, I didn't take it from the hallway. It fell under my horse. Claire made a small sound near the door. Not quite a gasp, not quite a warning. Her employee badge hung from a red lanyard, but the plastic sleeve was empty. Vincent noticed that before anyone mentioned it. The badge itself had been taken, leaving only the clear case pressed against her uniform. Where is Mrs. Harper's staff card? He asked. It was not loud. It was barely a question. But the room changed around it. Preston turned slightly toward the reception desk, then back. Standard collection during transition paperwork, he said. Nothing punitive. Celeste Ward stepped in then, her cream coat draped over one arm, her perfume moving through the room before her words did. Vincent, honey, these reviews happen every quarter. Some of the hourly staff become anxious when documents use legal phrasing. It doesn't mean anyone did anything wrong. She smiled at Lily with practiced warmth. Sweetheart, did someone tell you to bring that paper in here? Lily shook her head once. Nobody tells kids things in this hallway, she said. They think we don't hear. The sentence landed softer than an accusation and somehow worse. Julian Cross closed his leather folder with a flat little snap. That is precisely the problem, he said. A child has heard fragments and created a story around them. This company cannot be managed by fragments. Vincent did not answer. He lifted the yellow envelope from the table, turned it over, and read the stamped words on the front. Sign before leaving. Then his eyes moved to the side counter where a neat stack of white folders sat beside a silver coffee urn. The top folder was labeled Review Copy. It had a printed checklist clipped to it, 3 pages of explanation, and a blue sticky note that said Return after council review. Vincent reached for the white folder. Preston moved half a step. Not enough to block him, just enough to reveal instinct. Vincent saw it. So did Lily. She glanced at the white folder, then at the yellow envelopes outside the glass, and her brow folded with the kind of confusion that is still honest because no adult has taught it how to be polite. Why do those people get to take theirs home? She asked. No one answered quickly. The copier behind Preston hummed, then stopped. Somewhere beyond the glass, an older dishwasher shifted his weight and lowered his eyes. Preston gave a quiet, administrative sigh. Different departments receive different packets. That is normal. Hourly exits require immediate processing so payroll can close cleanly. Mommy didn't exit, Lily said. She was supposed to clean the upstairs rooms tomorrow. Claire whispered. Lily, not angry, afraid. Vincent turned his head slightly, enough to see Claire's hands. The skin around her knuckles was cracked from bleach. One thumb had a strip of white medical tape wrapped around it, damp at the edges. She looked at her daughter, then at the floor, as if the carpet had become the safest place in the room. Celeste's voice softened further, which made it colder. Claire, no one is blaming you. But if your daughter misunderstood something, this is the moment to say so. It was a generous sentence on the surface. Underneath it, Vincent heard the door closing. Claire opened her mouth. Preston's pen touched the file in front of him. Top. Claire shut her mouth again. Vincent did not look at Preston when he heard it. He looked at Lily. The girl had heard it too. She was staring at the pen like it had spoken. He did that before, she said. Before Mommy signed. Preston smiled again, but a thin line had appeared at the corner of his mouth. Children notice sounds. That does not make sounds evidence. Vincent folded the yellow envelope once along its original crease, not damaging it, just marking that it would not leave his sight. Then he placed it beside the white review copy folder and saw the difference that made the room go still inside him. The white folder had 3 pages of explanations, but Claire's yellow envelope had only the signature page. Vincent let the silence sit there until it became heavier than speech. The white review copy folder stayed open under his hand, its 3 explanatory pages clean, stapled, and printed in plain language. Beside it, Claire Harper's yellow envelope looked almost empty, thin enough for light to press through the paper. "This is what she got?" he asked. Preston's smile flickered, so fast most people would have missed it. "That is the employee copy relevant to her department." Lily leaned closer to the table, her small finger still resting near the edge of her mother's signature page. "No," she said. "That's not the one he showed Mommy." Claire whispered her name again, but Lily did not step back. Her blue backpack had slipped down to her elbow now, and her coloring book was tucked tight against her ribs like a shield. Vincent looked at the child, not softly, not warmly, but with the stillness of a man measuring whether a room had lied to him. "Show me," he said. Lily swallowed. Then she opened the coloring book to the horse page, the one with the heavy dark circle where the eye had been colored too many times. She placed it over the lower half of Claire's paper, leaving only the signature line exposed. "Like this," she said. "He put the blue folder here." Preston gave a quiet breath through his nose. "A child's memory is not a legal reconstruction." "Then it should be easy to ignore," Vincent said without looking at him. Lily moved the coloring book down an inch, then up again, trying to match what she had seen through the glass. The page covered the small paragraph near the bottom where the words wage, injury, medical, and legal claims sat crowded together in pale gray print. When she lifted the coloring book, Vincent's eyes caught on something else. A smear of blue ink ran along the edge of the clause, not across the signature line, not where Claire's hand would have rested, but exactly where an object might have pressed down and slid. Vincent turned his gaze to Preston's desk. The blue folder sat beside the green glass paperweight, too neatly placed, its lower right corner stained with the same blue ink. Preston saw Vincent notice it. For the first time, his hand moved before his words did. He reached toward the folder. Vincent's voice stopped him. "Leave it." The word was not loud, but Preston's fingers froze above the desk. Celeste shifted her cream coat from one arm to the other and smiled, as if easing tension at a dinner party. "Vincent, honestly, are we examining office supplies now?" Lily looked at her. "He used it to hide the losing part." Celeste's smile stayed in place, but her eyes hardened. "Lily, adults are speaking." "She is answering a question I asked," Vincent said. Julian Cross stepped forward, his leather folder under one arm. Even if a folder rested on the document, the signer had the opportunity to review it. He spoke with calm precision, as if the room were already a courtroom and everyone inside it had been reduced to evidence. "Opportunity matters." Vincent picked up the yellow envelope and peeled the white label back another fraction. The sticky edge made a soft tearing sound. Under schedule update form, the printed title emerged more clearly: Voluntary Separation and Release Agreement. He laid the envelope flat beside the signature page. 2 names for 1 paper. 1 harmless enough for a tired maid to sign. 1 sharp enough to cut away everything she was owed. Claire's breathing changed near the door. "Mr. Vale said it was about next week," she whispered. Preston turned toward her, gentle again, dangerous in the way gentle can become when it is meant to close a mouth. "Claire, I explained that employment status affects scheduling. You may have simplified that in your mind." Lily's face flushed, but she did not raise her voice. "Mommy asked if she could take it home. You said tomorrow's schedule would be finished in 20 minutes. Preston's pen touched the desk once, then stopped before the second tap. Vincent noticed that too. He slid the blue folder closer with 2 fingers, careful not to smudge it, and placed its stained corner beside the ink mark on the clause. They matched too neatly to feel accidental. Then Lily pointed to the bottom of the page again, to the words her mother had never been allowed to see, and Vincent understood the first true shape of the lie. The folder had not covered where Claire needed to sign. It had covered what she was signing away. Vincent did not say the accusation out loud. He did something worse for the people who had built their safety on polished explanations. He turned the paper back toward Claire Harper and placed it flat on the table, the clause no longer covered, the blue folder sitting beside it like a quiet accomplice. Mrs. Harper, he said, his voice low, controlled, almost gentle. Read this sentence for me. Claire looked at the paper as if it had grown teeth. The glass walls of the HR office made everything visible now. The yellow envelopes outside, the office staff pretending not to stare, the security man near the elevator shifting his hands in front of his belt, Celeste standing in cream-colored calm, Julian with one thumb hooked under the flap of his leather folder. Claire stepped closer. The damp edge of her sleeve brushed the table. She bent over the line Vincent had indicated. Employee, she began, then stopped. Her eyes moved slowly across the words. Employee, waves? Preston corrected softly. Waves. Claire swallowed. Waves all future. Her voice thinned. The next words sat there, long and hard, made for people who billed by the hour. Wage. Injury. Medical. Legal. Compensation. Claims. She blinked at them until the letters blurred. I'm sorry, she whispered. I can't read all that. No one moved. Lily stood beside her mother's hip and pressed the coloring book against her chest with both arms. She did not look proud. She looked scared, but steady, the way children look when they have already decided the truth is worth the trouble. Preston exhaled carefully, shaping the room back into procedure. Mr. Moretti, Claire was verbally advised. Written. Fluency is not required when an explanation is provided. Julian nodded once, precise and cold. Informed consent can be established through verbal summary and witness confirmation. Witness confirmation, Vincent repeated. Julian opened the folder as if he had been waiting for the phrase. Yes, the witness line is signed. Vincent turned the page. Near the bottom, beneath Claire's trembling name, another signature appeared in confident blue ink. Nora Bell. Witness. Time 6:12 p.m. Call her. Vincent said. Preston's face did not change, but his pen rolled half an inch under his fingers before he caught it. Nora is payroll staff. She may have left for the day. Then she can answer her phone. Celeste gave a small laugh, smooth as silverware over linen. Vincent, this is becoming humiliating for Claire. Perhaps we should handle it privately, with dignity. Claire flinched at the sound of her own name, because the sentence made her shame sound like protection. Lily noticed. Vincent noticed Lily noticing. Dignity, he said, does not require silence. Preston tapped the desk phone, selected a number, and put it on speaker. The ringing filled the glass office. Once, twice. Outside, someone coughed in the hallway and then stopped. On the fourth ring, a woman answered, breathless, with traffic noise behind her. This is Nora. Preston leaned toward the phone. Nora, this is Preston Vale. I'm here with Mr. Moretti. We need to confirm you witnessed Claire Harper's release form at 6:12 this evening. A pause. Not a dramatic one. Confused one. What? Preston's smile tightened. The Claire Harper document. You signed the witness line. No, I didn't. The words were plain enough to strip warmth from the room. Julian's eyes moved to Preston. Celeste stopped adjusting the cuff of her coat. Preston said, Nora, please think carefully. I am thinking carefully, Nora replied. I clocked out before 6. My son had a game in Queens. I left at 5:38. Vincent turned to the terminal at the corner of Preston's desk. Pull the time clock. Preston hesitated only a second, but a second was enough. He logged in. The employee record appeared. Nora Bell. Clock out. 5:38 p.m. Lily's small voice broke the silence. Mommy was still in here when the big hand was on the 12 and the little hand was past 6. Preston turned from the screen too quickly. Children guess time. Lily shook her head. No. The clock made the click sound. Then Mr. Vale said 20 minutes. Vincent looked at the wall clock above the HR file cabinet. An old analog clock. At every hour, the minute hand clicked louder than it should have. A tiny mechanical snap in a room full of digital screens. Preston had tried to make the paper look legal with a witness who was not there, and now the room knew it. Still, he gathered himself, straightened his silver tie, and spoke as though reason had returned to him. Then we have a clerical error on the witness line. It does not alter Claire's verbal acknowledgement. For one moment, he looked almost relieved, as if the damage had been reduced to paperwork. Then Vincent lowered his eyes to the signature again, and Lily pointed to the blue ink beneath Nora's name. The same pen sat in Preston Vale's hand. The pen in Preston Vale's hand looked ordinary until nobody could stop looking at it. Blue plastic barrel. Silver clip. A tiny smear of ink near the grip where a thumb had rested too long. Preston set it down with almost insulting care, as if placing distance between himself and the witness line could change what everyone had seen. Shared office supplies, he said before Vincent asked. People use whatever pen is available. Vincent did not answer. He removed a folded white handkerchief from his breast pocket, lifted the pen with it, and laid it beside Nora Bell's signature. Not dramatic, not angry, just careful. The kind of careful that made Preston's throat move once. "Do not touch that," Vincent said. Then his eyes went to Lily. "You said the paper fell under your horse." Lily hugged the coloring book tighter. For the first time since she had stepped into the office, she looked toward her mother for permission. Claire's face was pale with fear, but she gave the smallest nod a mother can give when she is terrified and proud at the same time. Lily opened the book again. The horse page was wrinkled where her hands had held. Too hard. Its body was colored brown, its mane yellow, its eye pressed so dark the paper had nearly torn. "It didn't fall under the horse at first," Lily said. "Mommy put my book on the chair before she went in. When he pushed the papers at her, one paper was on top of my book. I saw it when she came back out." Preston gave a thin, weary smile. "Mr. Moretti, with respect, we are now treating a child's coloring book like a forensic file." Vincent reached into the drawer of Preston's desk without asking, took out a yellow pencil and held it up. "May I?" he asked Lily. She nodded. The question itself seemed to steady her. He did not take the book from her hands. He let her place it flat on the table herself. Then, with the side of the pencil lead, Vincent shaded gently across the blank space around the horse's back. Gray dust caught in invisible grooves. At first, only scratches appeared. Then letters rose from the page like something buried refusing to stay buried. Release of unpaid overtime. Injury settlement closed. Confidential resignation. The room forgot how to breathe. Claire covered her mouth. The old dishwasher outside the glass leaned closer without meaning to. Even Celeste's perfume seemed suddenly too sweet for the air. Lily looked at the words, then at Vincent. "Those were under the horse," she whispered. "I didn't know what they said." Vincent stared at the impressions for a long moment. Not because he needed to understand them, because he did. His father had taught him long ago that paper could hurt a man worse than a knife if the wrong person held the pen. But this was not a rival family. This was his own office, his own glass walls, his own name printed at the top of a form used on a woman who cleaned his restaurants after midnight. He took out his phone, photographed the coloring page, the waiver, the blue folder, the pen, the yellow envelope, and the time clock screen still showing Nora Bell's 5:38 exit. Then he called one number. "Marco," he said quietly when his consigliera answered. "Come to HR. Bring evidence bags. Bring a scanner. And bring someone from outside payroll." Julian Cross stepped in before the call ended. "Vincent, chain of custody inside a private employment matter is unnecessary unless you intend to escalate this." Vincent looked at him then. "I intend to know what I am holding." Julian's expression remained composed, but he closed his leather folder with both hands. Preston, sensing the room slipping away from him, opened the payroll file on his monitor. "There is no unpaid wage issue," he said. "Claire received consideration for the release." The number appeared beside her name. Settlement consideration paid $1. For several seconds, Vincent did not move. $1. One clean, legal-looking dollar to make a tired woman sign away wages, injury claims, medical rights, and the right to speak later. Celeste touched his arm. "Vincent," she said softly, almost tenderly, "don't let this become bigger than it is." Julian reviewed these forms. That was the first time she had said Julian's name without looking at him. Vincent noticed. He looked at her hand on his sleeve, then at the $1 line glowing on Preston's screen, and the silence that followed was colder than rage. The silence did not break when Celeste removed her hand from Vincent's sleeve. It only widened. Rain had started against the glass walls of the HR office, soft at first, then steady, tapping the windows with the patient sound of fingernails on a closed door. Somewhere beyond the hall, a cleaning cart rolled over a floor, seam with a tired metal rattle. Claire stood very still beside Lily, and Lily held the coloring book open as if closing it might make the words disappear again. $1 glowed on Preston's monitor. Settlement consideration paid $1. Vincent looked at that number longer than anyone expected. Then he turned to Preston. Search the form code. Preston blinked. Excuse me? The template code on Claire Harper's release. Search every employee file using it. Julian Cross moved before Preston could speak, stepping between the desk and the screen with a calm lawyer's grace. Vincent, this is no longer a productive room. If there are concerns, we should conduct a limited internal review. Search it, Vincent said. Preston's jaw tightened. He typed. The computer took 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, Lily's stomach made a small hungry sound, and Claire, even in the middle of fear, reached down and rubbed her daughter's shoulder once, embarrassed by something no one decent would have noticed. Vincent noticed. The results filled the screen. Not 1 file. Not 2. 57. Names stacked down the page under the same agreement code. Dishwashers, laundry workers, housekeepers, prep cooks, porters, dock loaders from the Moretti Harbor warehouse. Men and women whose uniforms were washed so often their names faded before the fabric tore. Vincent leaned closer. Beside many of the names sat 2 letters in a narrow internal note field, LR. He did not ask Preston what it meant. He clicked 1 file, then another. The same notation appeared. Limited reading, use verbal summary. Lily lifted her eyes when she saw a name she knew. Mr. Alvarez, she whispered. He gives mommy the roles they can't serve anymore. Claire touched her daughter's arm, but Lily kept looking. And Miss Dina from laundry, and Mr. Sam with the hurt shoulder. Preston closed the window too quickly. Those are administrative support tags, he said. They help us tailor communication. Vincent's ring tapped once against the desk. Open the email archive. I can't authorize that without counsel, Preston replied. Julian's voice came in smoothly. And counsel is advising restraint. Vincent finally looked at him. You are counsel because I allowed you to be. Julian's face did not change, but the skin around his mouth went pale. Marco arrived then without announcement. A large man in a dark overcoat, rein on his shoulders, carrying a slim scanner case and clear evidence sleeves. He did not look at Lily. He did not look at Claire. He looked at Vincent and waited. Copy everything on that screen, Vincent said. Photograph the envelopes, the folder, the pen, the coloring book page. No one touches the originals. Celeste folded her arms. This is theatrical. Lily looked up at her, small and steady. I don't want money, she said. I just want them to stop saying Mommy knew. The sentence moved through Vincent more sharply than an accusation. Preston tried to recover the room. Mr. Moretti. Again, these releases were part of a pre-audit housekeeping effort. Every business does this. Before what audit? Vincent asked. Preston did not answer fast enough. Julian did. Gaming compliance and labor exposure review. Celeste's phone vibrated on the glass table. She glanced down before she could stop herself. Vincent saw only the top line of the notification before she turned the screen over. Finish before audit. No copies leave HR. The sender name was Preston. For the first time, the careful mask on Celeste's face did not return in time. Vincent reached for the keyboard himself and opened the email search. Preston stepped forward. Marco stepped once between them. No threat, just a wall. The email appeared in the archive, sent by Preston to Julian, copied to an account labeled Seaward Consulting. Prioritize LR staff before the audit. No copies leave HR. Attached beneath it was an invoice from the employee compensation reserved to the same consulting account, described as document risk strategy. Vincent read it twice. The rain kept ticking on the glass. The office lights hummed. Outside, 57 yellow envelopes sat in 57 tired hands. Julian placed a folder on the table then, as if offering a final shield. "You approved the restructuring package electronically," he said. "Your signature is on every authorization." Vincent looked at the digital approval stamp. His name, his company, his authority. Then he looked at Celeste, the woman he had trusted to clean up what he did not want to see, and understood with a coldness deeper than anger that the weakest people in his building had been marked, stripped, and silenced under the protection of his own name. Vincent did not deny the signature. He did not defend it. He did not look at Julian Cross and demand an explanation, and he did not look at Celeste as if heartbreak had any place in that room. He only closed the laptop halfway, just enough to turn its glowing approval stamp into a thin line of light. "Internal review," he said quietly. Julian's shoulders eased almost invisibly. Preston released a breath through his nose. Celeste's face softened with relief so practiced it could have been mistaken for concern. "That is the wise way," Julian said. "We contain the exposure, correct the documentation, and speak to staff one by one." Vincent nodded once, the smallest lie he had ever told in that office. "One by one," he repeated. Then he turned to Marco. "No one leaves with paper." Preston opened his mouth, but Vincent lifted one finger. Not a threat. A period at the end of a sentence. The room obeyed it. For the next 10 minutes, Vincent let them believe he had chosen silence. He let Celeste take his arm in the hallway. He let Julian murmur about licensing risk, casino review, port contracts, the kind of damage that could spread if hourly workers started repeating words they did not understand. He let Preston collect himself behind the glass like a man sweeping broken pieces under a rug. But while they watched Vincent's face, Marco watched the doors. The scanner copied the waiver. The yellow envelopes were photographed in place. The time clock record was preserved. The email archive was mirrored to a secure drive no one in HR could reach. In the service corridor, Lily sat beside Claire on a wooden bench used by kitchen staff during meal breaks. A vending machine hummed nearby. Lily's shoes did not touch the floor. Claire rubbed her own thumb where the pen had pressed too hard and whispered, "Baby, you should have stayed quiet." Lily looked down at the coloring book in her lap. "If I stayed quiet, they would say you knew." Vincent heard the sentence as he approached, and for a moment the old lighter in his pocket felt heavier than metal. He crouched, not too close, not like a man trying to make a child grateful. "Lily," he said, "I need to ask one thing. Not a grown-up thing. Just what you saw." She nodded, serious at once. "When your mother signed, did anyone come in after Mr. Vale?" Lily thought, not performing, not trying to be useful, just going back to the chair, the horse page, the clock click, the smell of lemon cleaner. "Miss Celeste was outside the glass," she said. "Then Mr. Cross came later with his brown bag." "Leather folder?" Vincent asked. "Yes." He held it under his arm like this. She tucked the coloring book against her side, copying the posture. And Miss Celeste smelled like flowers. The strong kind. It came in before she did. Vincent stood without changing expression. That was when the quiet part of the night began. In a small conference room 2 doors away, he brought in an outside labor attorney named Elaine Porter. Not from the Moretti payroll, not from Julian's firm, not from anyone's pocket. He did not ask the workers to accuse anybody. He did not offer them cash. He placed their yellow envelopes on the table, one by one, and Elaine read the agreements aloud in plain English. The first dishwasher stared at the table when he heard he had signed away unpaid overtime. The laundry woman pressed both hands over her mouth when she heard the words confidential resignation. Then an older dock loader named Samuel Reyes reached into his coat and placed a worn hospital card beside his form. "They told me this closed nothing," he said. "They said it was only so I could keep shifts while my shoulder healed." Vincent looked at the card, then at the agreement. Injury settlement closed. $1 paid. His face did not move, but something behind his eyes went dark and exact. At 1:17 a.m., Marco brought the next piece. Access logs from the executive floor. Vincent's electronic signature had not been triggered from his office. It had been activated from Celeste Ward's private workstation. At 1:22 a.m., hallway camera showed Julian entering that same office with his brown leather folder. At 1:46, printer logs showed Preston's account releasing 57 copies of the same agreement. Vincent looked at each timestamp as if arranging pieces on a chessboard. Then he sent one message from his own phone. Tomorrow morning, corrected forms. HR Glassroom. Everyone present. Preston replied within 12 seconds. Understood. Celeste's phone rang in the silent conference room a moment later, but she did not know Vincent was watching it light up on the table across from him. Lily saw the screen flash from where she sat beside Claire. She read only 2 words before Celeste turned it over with a stiff hand. He knows. And in that tiny movement, Preston Vale, Celeste Ward, and Julian Cross stopped being the only adults in the room who understood a trap had been set. By morning, the glass HR room had been arranged like a place for paperwork, not judgment. That was the first thing Preston Vale trusted. The long table was polished. The yellow envelopes were stacked in neat rows. Corrected forms sat face down before every chair. A coffee urn steamed near the wall for the first time anyone could remember, as if kindness had been added to the meeting after the damage was already done. The employees came in slowly. Dishwashers with cracked hands, laundry workers smelling faintly of bleach, housekeepers still in soft-soled shoes, dock loaders who looked too large for the narrow chairs. Claire Harper sat near the end with Lily beside her, the coloring book held flat on the child's lap. Celeste Ward entered last, pale but perfect, her cream coat buttoned to the throat. Julian Cross placed his brown leather folder on the table and stood behind a chair as though he still owned the language in the room. Preston smiled with careful humility. Thank you all for coming. We understand there may have been confusion regarding certain separation materials, and Mr. Moretti has asked us to clarify. Sit down, Vincent said. Preston stopped. Not because the words were loud, because they were empty of negotiation. Vincent stood at the head of the table in his black suit, the silver signet ring still on his hand, the old lighter laid beside the first yellow envelope. Marco closed the glass door. The hallway time clock blinked 8:03 behind them, visible through the wall like a witness waiting its turn. No one is signing anything today, Vincent said. The employees looked at one another, unsure whether relief was safe. Julian opened his folder. Vincent, before we make statements that could prejudice the company. Vincent pressed a remote. The screen behind him lit up with Claire's document. Not a summary, not a corrected form. The original schedule update form was shown first, the white label half lifted. Then the image changed, revealing the title underneath. Voluntary Separation and Release Agreement. A sound moved through the workers, not quite a gasp, more like breath returning to. Quickly, Lily looked down at her book and gripped its corners. Vincent's voice remained level. This is the paper Claire Harper was told was about next week's schedule. He clicked again. The blue folder appeared beside the clause. Then the ink smear. Then the same stain matched against the lower corner of Preston's folder. Preston folded his hands. That proves nothing except proximity. Vincent clicked again. Nora Bell's witness line filled the screen, followed by the time clock record showing Nora had left at 5:38 p.m. Then Nora's written statement appeared, signed that morning, saying she had not witnessed Claire Harper sign anything at 6:12. Preston's expression tightened, but Julian stepped in smoothly. Clerical errors occur. They do not void every agreement. Lily raised one hand, not high, just enough for Vincent to see. Mr. Moretti, she said. The clock clicked. He looked at her. She pointed through the glass toward the analog wall clock above the HR cabinet. It clicked when Mommy was still inside. That's when he said 20 minutes. Vincent let the room follow her finger. He clicked again. The hall camera played without sound, but the timestamp read 6:12. Claire sat across from Preston. The blue folder covered the bottom of the page. Her hand hovered over the line. Preston leaned forward. Outside the glass, Celeste stood in her cream coat, looking at her phone, waiting. Vincent did not speak for several seconds. He watched Celeste on the screen, then Celeste at the table, and something in his face went still in a way that was almost pain. He had thought betrayal would arrive with a gun, arrival a threat at midnight. Instead, it had worn perfume, carried legal folders, and used tired people as numbers under his own roof. The next slide appeared. Lily's coloring book. Vincent had shaded the horse page lightly enough to reveal the pressed words. Release of unpaid overtime. Injury settlement closed. Confidential resignation. Samuel Reyes, the dock loader, lowered his head when his hospital card appeared beside his $1 settlement. A laundry woman began to cry silently, not because she was weak, but because someone had finally read aloud what had been done to her. Vincent clicked again. 57 names. LR. Limited reading, use verbal summary. Then the email, prioritize LR staff before the audit. No copies leave HR. Preston did not move. Julian's mouth opened, then closed. Celeste looked away first. And this, Vincent said, is the approval stamp with my name. The screen changed to the access log. Electronic authorization, 1:17 a.m. Celeste Ward private workstation. Then hallway footage, 1:22 a.m. Julian entering her office with the brown leather folder. Printer release, 1:46 a.m. Preston Vale account, 57 copies. Vincent could not speak for one long moment. The entire room saw it. The Mafia boss who made other men lower their eyes went pale before a list of housekeepers and dishwashers. Lily slid her coloring book forward across the table. Her name is Claire, she said, pointing to the discarded draft where someone had typed Clara. Not Clara. That small correction broke something no contract could repair. Vincent picked up the draft, placed it on top of the waiver, then laid Samuel's hospital card beside it and the $1 payroll line beside that. He looked at Julian Cross, then at Preston, then at Celeste. You built a cage out of signatures, he said quietly. Then you forgot cages have keys. Julian reached for his folder. Marco's hand came down on top of it first. Vincent removed his ring, set it on the table beside the evidence, and said, calm enough to frighten everyone who understood him. Call Elaine Porter. Bring in the independent counsel. This room is no longer yours. No one moved until Marco opened the glass door and Elaine Porter walked in carrying a black legal pad. Not a leather folder, not a family seal, not a smile meant to quiet people. She stopped at the head of the table, looked first at the workers, not at Vincent, and said, before anyone speaks, I need every person in this room to understand one thing. I do not represent Mr. Moretti's personal interests. I have been retained to preserve your rights. The words changed the air more than shouting could have. Some of the employees looked confused, as if rights were something that belonged to other people. In other rooms, Vincent placed Claire's voluntary separation and release agreement into a clear evidence sleeve himself. Beside it went the peeled schedule update label, the blue folder, the pen, the time clock printout, the shaded coloring book page, Samuel Reyes's hospital card, the payroll screen showing $1, the LR list, the email, the access logs, and the consulting invoice tied to Celeste. Each item received a number. Each number received a photograph. Each photograph received a witness. The truth was no longer a child's whisper. It had become a record. Preston Vale tried once more to sound useful. Mr. Moretti, I can assist with employee communications while this is reviewed. Vincent looked at him as if he were reading small print for the first time. You will assist by surrendering your badge. Preston's hand went to his jacket, then stopped. Marco stepped forward with an open palm. The badge dropped into it with a soft plastic click. Julian Cross said, Vincent, think carefully. A public admission exposes the company. Vincent turned to him. No. Hiding it exposed the company. You exposed my name. You exposed them. Elaine Porter asked Julian for his bar number, wrote it down, and told him a formal complaint would be filed with the state disciplinary board. Julian's face tightened, but for the first time in the room, his words did not arrive. Celeste stood very still. The diamond on her finger flashed once under the ceiling light when Vincent looked at it. He did not tear anything away. He simply extended his hand. After a long second, she pulled off the engagement ring and placed it on the table beside the old lighter. Your access to every Moretti account, office, license file, and consulting payment ends today, he said. The compensation reserve is frozen until investigators finish tracing it. Celeste whispered his name, but it sounded less like love than a door asking not to be closed. Vincent did not answer. He turned to the workers. His voice lowered. Every agreement in this batch is suspended internally effective now. No one loses a shift for refusing to sign. No one is asked for silence. No one speaks to my people without independent counsel present. Elaine then read the new process aloud. 72 hours to review any document affecting wages, medical benefits, injury claims, resignation, or legal rights, plain language copies, the right to take papers home, interpreters and reading assistants without shame, independent witnesses, and a hotline outside HR. Claire sat with both hands folded in her lap until Vincent came to her side of the table. He did not hand her an envelope. He did not make charity out of her pain. He placed a corrected file before her with her full name printed clearly. Claire Harper. It restored her job, back pay, overtime, medical coverage, and the right to reopen any claim buried under the false release. It also gave her a choice. Return as a paid housekeeping trainer helping workers understand procedures, or leave with full compensation and independent counsel protecting the decision. Mrs. Harper, Vincent said, and the title made Claire's eyes fill before any amount of money could have. My company used your fear as a signature. I am sorry. Claire looked at the file, then at Lily. Lily reached up and fixed the little star clip in her own hair, crooked from the long night, before slipping her hand into her mother's. Later, after the statements were taken and the first yellow envelopes were collected for review, Vincent walked into the hallway outside HR. The old sign still hung above the time clock. Sign before leaving. He lifted it off the wall himself. In its place, he hung a new white sign with black letters large enough for tired eyes to read. Take it home. Read it first. Ask for help. Lily stood beside Claire beneath it, her coloring book held against her chest, no longer hiding anything. Vincent handed the book back carefully, as if returning something sacred. Lily looked up at him and said, "Now Mommy can sign when she's ready." Vincent could not speak for a moment, because the smallest voice in the room had done what power had failed to do. It made the truth louder than fear, and the people once ignored were finally heard.